Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Candace McCowan. Here are the top 5 things you need to know this Monday. Number 1, a big week in the impeachment investigation.
President Trump is going on the attack as more witnesses prepare to testify this week. He's already targeting an aide to Vice President Mike Pence ahead of her hearing tomorrow. She testified about that controversial phone call with Ukraine.
Also this week, lawmakers are eager to hear from Gordon Sondland. He testifies on Wednesday. He's the EU ambassador who recently revised his closed-door testimony. Number 2, a developing story from Fresno, California, the scene of a deadly mass shooting overnight.
Police say at least 4 people were killed when a gunman entered the backyard of a home where a family had gathered to watch football. 6 others were wounded.
The shooter escaped. Police have not revealed a motive. They say no children were hurt.
On to number 3, new violence on college campus there in Hong Kong today.
Anti-government protesters who were barricaded on campus all weekend tried to escape this morning, but they were turned back by police using tear gas. It's unclear if any protesters were able to flee the campus.
Over the weekend, some demonstrators used slingshots and bows and arrows against police. One officer was hit with an arrow in the leg. ABC's Ian Pannell is there.
Just insane scenes here. You can see the amount of bricks, Molotov cocktails and explosive devices being thrown at the police.
The police are now saying that if protesters continue to use things like bows and arrows, attack vehicles and throw Molotov cocktails, then they will respond with the necessary force, which could include live ammunition.
Overnight, Hong Kong's High Court struck down a ban on face masks. It was aimed at protesters trying to hide their identity.
Number 4, Ford is hoping to redefine the American muscle car, unveiling its new electric Ford Mustang.
The battery-powered SUV is Ford's attempt to challenge Tesla. It has a new Mustang logo, and one of its driving modes puts out a dull roar, in case you missed the Mustang's V8.
It hits the market in 2021, starting at $45,000.
And finally, number 5, a new stop on Kanye's Christian conversion.
Yeah, thousands filled a megachurch in Houston to see Kanye West. Kanye said that the devil had been distracting him for a long time, but he's no longer in the service of fame and money. He says he's now in full service to God.
All of that arrogance and confidence and cockiness that y'all seen me use before, God is now using for him.
It's seen as though the people they're skeptical.
Well, the thing is, we don't try, we do. My mom said trying is failing. When we go to the prisons, when we go and do an interview with Joel, it's overwhelmingly positive response.
Last night was Kanye's latest Sunday service concert. He's been holding them around the country since January.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. And we've got Candace McCowan here from WABC filling in.
Happy to sit next to you, friend.
Hey, so great to sit next to you as well. It's your very first It's Morning America.
Absolutely. It's fun to be here.
We're so happy to have you over. You just walked like a couple of steps over.
A couple hundred feet, and I made it over.
WABC, for those who don't know, we're all in the same building, all the same family. WABC is our flagship station, and I watch you every single morning.
Yep. I'm usually like out in the streets of New York City.
And now it's cold.
Yeah.
But now you're inside.
Nice and warm.
Making a network debut. I love it. Hey, let's get to that big story. The drama expected on Capitol Hill this week with the most crucial testimony yet in the impeachment hearings. Ambassador Gordon Sondland will be among those taking questions.
Meanwhile, President Trump is lashing out, attacking an aide to Vice President Mike Pence, who testified about that controversial phone call with Ukraine.
ABC's Andrea Fajii is here with more. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Kenneth and Candace. At least 8 witnesses are scheduled to testify this week in public hearings. And over the weekend, President Trump lashed out at one of them.
As the House impeachment inquiry prepares for 3 more days of public hearings this week, Democrats and Republicans are not wavering.
The President of the United States used taxpayer-funded military assistance to pressure a foreign leader to help him in his re-election campaign.
Republicans pushing back.
I think the evidence is crumbling.
Over the weekend, the committee released transcripts of the closed-door testimony from Jennifer Williams, a member of Vice President Pence's staff. She's scheduled to testify tomorrow. She was on that July 25th phone call in which President Trump brought up investigating the Bidens and the 2016 election. She testified she remembers the mention of Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company where Hunter Biden served on the board. But the transcript of the call released by the White House makes no mention of Burisma. The president tweeted on Sunday in response, "Tell Jennifer Williams, whoever that is, to read both transcripts of the presidential calls. She should meet with the other Never Trumpers." That tweet coming just days after he blasted former Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch as she was testifying.
I think part of it is his own insecurity as an imposter, and so he has to diminish everyone else.
She used the word imposter, talking about the President of the United States, who 63 million people voted for.
And on Wednesday, the most anticipated hearing, EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland set to testify. He originally said the president never asked for a quid pro quo from Ukraine, but has since revised that initial closed-door testimony.
Mr. Sondland has to decide whether his primary loyalty is to America or whether his primary loyalty is to the President of the United States.
And as the president and Republicans have argued over the process of these hearings, over the weekend, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi invited the president to testify before the committee in person or in writing to defend himself. Candace?
Andrea, thank you so much. A new poll from ABC News and Ipsos conducted over the weekend shows an overwhelming 70% of Americans think that President Trump's request to a foreign leader to investigate a political rival was wrong. A slim majority of Americans, 51%, believe Trump's actions were both wrong and he should be impeached and removed from office.
58% of Americans say they are following the hearings very closely or somewhat closely. Among those who said this, 60% think that Trump should be impeached and removed from office.
The White House insists President Trump is as healthy as can be, but a physical exam over the weekend is fueling speculation.
The president's previous annual checkups were announced ahead of time, but sources say Saturday's visit to Walter Reed Hospital did not follow protocol. The White House press secretary denies there were any health issues. She said the president underwent portions of his annual physical a few months early because he had a free weekend and expects next year to be busy.
President Trump has reportedly backed away from plans to ban nearly all flavored e-cigarettes in an effort to curb the health crisis affecting teenagers across the country. The Washington Post first reported the change, of course, saying advisors warned the president that major restrictions on vaping could cost him votes and take away jobs. He was also facing an intense lobbying effort by the vaping industry.
Now to the Democrats who want to defeat the president in next year's election. The top 10 candidates will debate each other Wednesday night in Georgia. Many of them will be expected to attack South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. A new poll shows he's surging in one early battleground state. ABC's Brad Milkey has the details. Brad.
Hey, that's right. You know, a poll is just a poll, but now we've seen several polls showing Pete Buttigieg right there in the top tier leading into the Iowa caucuses. And now a brand new poll shows him surging way ahead of his rivals. The Des Moines Register poll, a respected poll throughout the years, shows Buttigieg with a 10-point lead over his nearest competitor. And it couldn't come at a better time for the 37-year-old mayor, with the caucuses less than 3 months away. I spoke to ABC's political director, Rick Klein, and he said in a state that really values moderate Democrats, Buttigieg has quickly gotten a reputation for winning the middle.
A lot of Iowans have said he's sort of doing it the right way by campaigning in the state, putting together the infrastructure and the organization. It's cutting across demographic groups. And what people are telling pollsters is that they like the fact that he's just kind of just right on the issues. He's not too far left. He's not too far right. And in this poll and others, we have seen Democrats put a real premium on the ability to defeat Donald Trump. And that would seem to be with a candidate of the center.
And one other thing to keep an eye on, this weekend, Michael Bloomberg actually apologized to black voters for pushing the stop and frisk policies when he was mayor of New York City. Says he got it wrong. And people who have covered the mayor for a long time told me, this guy doesn't apologize for anything. So the fact that he is doing this 6 years after he was mayor says he is really serious about his potential run for president. We'll have more on the 2020 race on Start Here later this morning. Listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. Kenneth, Candace?
Brad, thank you. Syracuse University has suspended all fraternity social activities after the latest in a string of racist incidents. Saturday night, a group that included frat members used a racial slur towards a black female student. At least 10 incidents targeting black, Asian, and Jewish students have been reported on or near campus this month. State officials are now investigating.
A new video is showing the police takedown of a kidnapper in Texas. Michael Webb was sentenced to life in prison last week for abducting an 8-year-old girl in Fort Worth, snatching her from her mother's hands as they went for a walk. Police tracked down the kidnapper at a nearby hotel, but they left when there was no sign of the child. Then they came back 2 hours later and found the girl hidden inside a laundry basket.
I just thought she was such a brave little girl.
So she's making progress?
She's incredibly resilient. She's going to do extraordinary things one day.
The ordeal lasted about 8 hours. Part of it was caught on a doorbell camera you see there. The mother tried to fight off the kidnapper and jumped in his car, but he pushed her out.
And it sounds like something from a TV series, Breaking Bad.
Yeah, 2 chemistry professors at Henderson State University in Arkansas have been arrested. They're charged with making meth and using drug paraphernalia.
Both have been on leave for more than a month after a chemical odor was reported at the Science Center. It turned out to be a chemical used in making meth.
That's like a big old no.
Nope.
Don't do that. Hey, coming up, Venice swamped by historic flooding, hit by the 3rd record tide in a week. What authorities estimate the damage will cost.
But first, the growing fallout after Prince Andrew's interview, what he said about his relationship with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, that's sparking a royal backlash.
Welcome back. We turn now to the royal fallout after an explosive interview with Prince Andrew. For the first time, the prince has answered questions about his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
He's defending himself against accusations that he had sex with one of Epstein's alleged teenage victims. But his defense is coming under growing scrutiny, including the claim that he made about not being able to sweat.
This morning, Prince Andrew coming under fire after speaking publicly for the first time about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite. At the time, and bearing in mind this was some years before he was accused of being a sex offender, I don't think there was anything wrong then.
Epstein was convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. Just months after his sentence, the prince was seen in this video obtained by the Mail on Sunday, appearing in the door of Epstein's New York home.
It was a convenient place to stay. I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one could have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do.
Earlier this year, Epstein died of an apparent suicide in jail while awaiting trial on child sex trafficking charges. Prince Andrew maintains that despite multiple visits to several of Epstein's homes, he never saw any indication of unlawful conduct involving underage girls. Virginia Roberts Giuffre says she was one of Epstein's teenage sex slaves. In court filings, Giuffre claims when she was 17, Epstein ordered her to have sex with some of his powerful friends, including Prince Andrew.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
The prince denies having sex with Giuffre. As for this now infamous picture of the two together, the prince says he doesn't remember it being taken and says it could be fake.
It is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph. So it's very difficult to be able to prove it. But I don't remember that photograph ever being taken.
Andrew also claims that on the day of their alleged encounters, he was with his daughter getting pizza.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at, and it was almost impossible for me to sweat. And it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again.
Well, that interview is all that anyone in England is talking about today. So let's go across the pond to Julia McFarlane in our London bureau for more. Good morning, Julia.
Morning, Candace.
Yeah, how are people reacting to this interview?
Well, I mean, we're now in the 3rd day of the news cycle, well, 4th day, really, as headlines from that interview first started emerging on Friday. The full 50-minute interview airing on Saturday night here in the UK. And it's really, I have to say, all anyone can talk about, still dominating the newspapers today. A lot of people taking issue with Andrew's claims that he does not remember meeting one of his accuser, Virginia Roberts, who claimed to have been forced to have sex with the Duke of York when she was 17, when she was a minor. Andrew denied that. He said he doesn't ever remember meeting her. And he claimed that he had been at a pizza restaurant in a city way outside London on the day that was supposed to have happened. A lot of people are taking issue with this story. But I have to say, a lot of people this morning have been talking about how Prince Andrew did not make any mention of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and he did not seem to indicate any remorse for them. He said he regretted having stayed at the disgraced financier's house. And also, people are now asking whether, following this very detailed interview, he may eventually have to speak to federal investigators who are looking into the Epstein case. A lot of people have been doing interviews in the media, former palace aides describing the interview as excruciating. The former press officer for Buckingham Palace said that it was not so much a car crash, but an articulated lorry crash of an interview. And this all comes, of course, as well amid news that Prince Andrew's, one of his advisors, his PR advisor, left service a few days before the interview took place. But palace sources have been telling the BBC that the Duke of York stands by his interview and that he doesn't regret speaking to Newsnight's Emily Maitlis.
Wow. Julie, before we move on to the next one, I was thinking about like the one soundbite where she had to correct him, or really just point out that we're talking about a sex offender here. From that to, it's obviously saying that when it comes to staying at his properties, that it was easy. For a royal, it was very comfortable, easy, or however he put it. It was just really weird and awkward. And I mean, obviously you're saying like he's getting skewered over there, but was there really no forethought about this interview? And yeah, he fired an advisor, an advisor left a couple weeks before, but you thought that this would have been more planned out.
Yeah, well, we don't know. It's certainly not been reported that he was fired, or only that he left working for the Duke of York. But as you say, a lot of people are finding it that quite a difficult thing to believe that the son of the Queen stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's house in New York because it was convenient. Surely there's no shortage of hotels in Manhattan that he could have taken instead. And on that note, a cartoonist for the Times of London newspaper picks up that exact point. That depicts the Queen as the head of the Royal Fire Brigade, and that speech bubble says, "Quick, one hears Andrew's pants may be on fire." A lot of people really having some trouble believing Prince Andrew's his claims as to why he is innocent of the allegations against him, but he did say that he regretted his decision of staying with Epstein after his conviction.
All right, well, let's move on to the 10th standoff playing out at a university in Hong Kong after a weekend of fiery confrontations. Anti-government protesters who were barricaded on campus all weekend tried to escape this morning. They were turned back by police using tear gas. What are we hearing from our team on the ground there? We know that Ian Pannell is there.
Exactly, Kenneth. And it seems every time we visit Hong Kong, we say things like, violence is reaching new heights there, things are getting worse. But it really, really does appear to be taking a turn here. Now, the Polytechnic University protesters were occupying it for a number of days now. And what happened on Sunday night was that riot police and police standing outside the campus, they gave students until 10 o'clock at night local time to evacuate the premises. Now, over the course of the night and from very early this morning, very, very ugly scenes. The students inside fighting against the police outside. They have been throwing Molotov cocktails and protesters have also been seen using bows and arrows, and a lot of the building has been set on fire. There's smoke rising from the buildings. Medics have been photographed being arrested outside along with reporters, and police have made a cordon around the university building and they are trying to prevent people from going outside. Now, there's a lot of human rights defenders saying that this is barbaric, preventing people from leaving the building where there are some parts of it which are still burning this morning. A pro-democracy legislator says that 4,000 people are still inside. Many of them are students. Meanwhile, some really extraordinary scenes from across the city. Someone tweeted a video of white-collar workers in central Hong Kong blocking the roads in huge numbers, chanting "Save the students" just around the financial district. And just lastly, Kenneth, a lot of photos have been circulating on social media of people showing burn marks on their skin. People are asking whether the riot police and the elite Raptor police have been using a very highly toxic form of tear gas.
Yeah, and you said it just seems to be escalating and escalating for sure. Let me switch gears. In Venice, hundreds of people had to be rescued in the historic flooding there, and now authorities are saying that the damage may top $1 billion.
Yeah, so a few days ago, the mayor estimated that the damage was feared to be numbering in the hundreds of millions of euros. That now looks to be, by some estimates, have reached €1 billion in damages. But that's because, as you can see, so much damage to also some very ancient buildings, and that's why a lot of the cost seems to be spiraling, because a lot of the repairs are going to have to be done to some ancient and iconic buildings, such as the St. Mark's Basilica. You know, you've got marble and stone that is hundreds and hundreds of years old, and this water is incredibly corrosive for these very, very fragile materials. And residents are becoming increasingly angry about how the authorities have handled the threat. The threat of flooding for Venice is not a new one, and since 2003 there has been work put in place for a dam project, but that still has not been completed, and it has racked up hundreds of millions of euros in cost.
It's a really sad sight to see there. All right, well, Julie McFarlane in our London bureau, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Let's check our notifications now, starting with a fond farewell for Bebe, the giant panda. So it was down in D.C., and they said he's headed back to China?
Yeah, he's been here for, 4 years, or he's 4 years old, and he's now headed back on a Federal Express plane, which they're calling the Panda Express.
Oh, okay. Not like the restaurant.
No.
Fast food place that's sometimes out of orange chicken.
And FedEx has some experience transporting animals like this.
They sure do, so we say goodbye to Bebe. Yeah. And next, I watched this hockey fan smiling for a selfie, but apparently his Toronto Maple Leafs, they were losing.
You know, the
and he was
word
not happy.
is that he was upset about the game. I think whoever his female companion is just made him take like a ton of selfies.
And then
and he was over it.
The moment he takes it and she snaps it, looks at it, and he's like back to, well, he does look at it still like, well, I still have to approve it.
That's why he smiled, because he's like, I do know.
Okay, yeah. Next, an update on Jeopardy James.
Yeah, the Jeopardy superstar who won 32 regular games in a row over the summer took home the $250,000 grand prize in the Tournament of Champions on Friday night.
He ended up beating the contestant who ended his winning streak, Emma Betcher.
James Holzhauer's winnings, they now top $2.7 million.
So there goes Jeopardy James.
And there goes Kenneth's song.
There it is. Hey, and some police officers in Florida got a big scare from a tiny alligator.
Little bitty alligator.
Look at this thing about to scurry out of there like a little lizard.
So police officers in Florida, they're used to dealing with alligators.
Yeah.
They call the wranglers in, they know what it's like. So I'm having a hard time imagining
Florida
why.
Fish and Wildlife.
Exactly. Why are they running from this?
Maybe because, I think you mentioned earlier, right, when one person runs or screams,
yeah, it's kind of
everyone,
it's very contagious.
Even the law enforcement, the protect and serve, wearing the badges, are like, that little thing come out of there.
The little thing was probably not powerful enough to bite through the boots even, you know? So, oh well.
All right, well, moving on to new questions this morning surrounding controversial NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. He was supposed to take part in a private workout for the NFL this weekend, but he abruptly canceled the event, holding his own workout instead, and now many are saying the last-minute change may hurt his chances of ever playing again. This morning, new fallout after Colin Kaepernick's ultimate quarterback sneak.
He don't want to play. He wants to be a martyr.
The NFL surprised the polarizing player by offering a workout at the Atlanta Falcons facility this weekend. But just a half hour before the workout, Kaepernick changed the venue, moving it nearly 60 miles away.
Our biggest thing with everything today was making sure we had transparency in what went on.
The league says 25 teams showed up for the scheduled workout, but only 8 made it to the changed venue. According to Kaepernick's camp, they moved the workout after the NFL rejected Kaepernick's own camera crew for filming.
I suspect that what would have happened is they would have spun it as, or released whatever they would have wanted to cherry pick whatever footage. This was a publicity stunt on the part of the NFL, and we called their bluff.
It's been nearly 3 years since Kaepernick played an NFL game. In a grievance, he claimed team owners colluded to keep him off the field because of his national anthem protest against racial injustice and police brutality. The case was settled in court. This morning, Kaepernick's lawyer says they've gotten feedback from 4 of 8 teams that watched his workout. But many are saying his decision to move the venue hurt his chances of playing again.
And if he had showed out, I'm here to tell you, I believe he would have had a job inside of 2 weeks. But it didn't happen because he didn't show.
Supporters of Kaepernick fired back at analyst Stephen A. Smith, including Eric Reed of the Carolina Panthers, accusing Smith of tap dancing for the NFL.
Is Colin supposed to trust the organization that's blackballing him? He's not that naive.
You don't want to work. You just want to make noise. And you want to control the narrative. It's over.
The NFL released a statement saying it's disappointed Kaepernick did not appear for his scheduled workout. So that is our question of the day. Did the workout help or hurt Kaepernick's chances of playing in the NFL again? Was it the back and forth? Was all the pretty much the hijinks, the PR stunt really coming from?
And you wonder if teams even got to really see even some tape of how talented he was, or is it an excuse to not get him back out in the field? A lot of people will have a lot of opinions about this.
And they do. We saw Stephen A. Smith there. He's taken a lot of heat as well for his very strong opinions, but we're used to that from Stephen A. Smith. Absolutely. And please let us know, answer that question of the day, tweet us at ABC News Live, comment here in the comments section. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, coming up, we'll tell you what to watch out for as we begin the week.
Plus, a high school janitor gets the gift of a lifetime after this. Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump will receive his intelligence briefing before meeting with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson is set to announce details of an awareness campaign on the dangers of vaping.
And the Chiefs and Chargers will face off as Monday Night Football returns to Mexico City's Azteca Stadium. Last year's game scheduled there had to be relocated to LA after the field was deemed unplayable.
Plus, don't forget to tune in to The Debrief for an update on all our top stories and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. Finally, this morning, a high school janitor just north of Birmingham, Alabama, is slipping behind the wheel of the car of his dreams.
A truck, actually. 2 students at Jasper High School presented Travis Kennedy with a brand new truck at the big game Friday night, the fruits of a GoFundMe campaign that ended up raising nearly $20,000.
The boys, Sam Heist and Preston Reed, started the campaign after seeing that Kennedy was driving around in a 30-year-old clunker. The students started the fundraiser earlier this year on National Custodial Workers Recognition
Helping
Day.
out your school, your community. Such a good
They obviously have
there.
Some incredible fundraising power.
They surely do.
They used it for good.
They surely did. And we use Candace for our good here on It's Morning America.
I feel used.
It's been great to have you, but you did a great job, and you're coming back tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be back.
We'll see. We'll see. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.